There's a bar where you can make phone calls to those who've passed away, but every call only lasts 60 seconds. Anna didn't hesitate for a second and dialed the number of her mother, who had just recently departed. Yet all she heard upon connecting was harsh, vicious verbal abuse, followed by complete silence on the other end of the line. The 1-minute window slipped by in an instant. To settle the phone bill, she had to take part in a game of Russian roulette. If luck turned against her, she would meet a fatal end. Refuse to play, and she would be trapped inside the bar forever. Anna offered $1 million to buy her way out immediately, but the bartender turned her down firmly. These were non-negotiable rules of the bar, unbreakable by anyone, not even the bartender himself. However, another person could step forward to cover the cost of her call. Anna's husband David grabbed the revolver without a moment's hesitation.
Счет оплачен, можете идти.
Still, Anna chose to stay. She wanted to make one more phone call. This time, she dialed her former partner who had passed on, desperate to uncover the truth behind why he left her all those years ago. If she could get the answers she sought, she could finally let go of the past and live peacefully with David for the rest of their lives. She asked her husband to step outside for a while. The second the line connected, tears streamed uncontrollably down Anna's face. Even though her ex-partner had subjected her to domestic harm back then, a part of her heart still clung to affection for him. She had married David, who came from a wealthy background, solely to secure a stable. The words that came from her ex's end of the line were cruel. Though, if you truly loved me, you would take David's fortune and run away with me.
Я люблю тебя. И всегда буду любить, слышишь?
Время. Мы закончили.
Once more, David covered the price of her call. This time, 2 live bullets were loaded into the revolver. David had heard every honest word his wife had spoken, yet he remained willing to risk his life for her. He loved Anna deeply, and he could not bear the thought of their young child growing up without a mother.
Встречайте нашего счастливчика! 2 выстрела и все еще живой! Та-та-ра-та-та-та-та-та-та!
David survived by sheer luck. The moment he squeezed the trigger, all his tangled feelings faded away. But Anna put forward another request. She intended to make a third call, to David's mother. The elderly woman had fiercely opposed their marriage years ago. Anna hoped to tell her mother-in-law that she had been wrong, and that she and David led a happy life together now. David raised no objections, yet the cost of this third call meant 3 live bullets would be placed in the gun. As the call connected, David quietly slipped out of the bar. The second he stepped outside, he contacted their son, telling the boy he would be home soon. A gunshot echoed from inside the bar a moment later, and David walked away without glancing back. Shortly after, a priest pushed open the bar's door. That day marked the anniversary of his daughter's passing, and he'd come to drown his sorrows in alcohol. The bartender told him he could have a 1-minute conversation with his late daughter, in exchange for participating in the roulette game. The priest assumed the bartender was mocking him and turned to leave. At that same moment, a man emerged from the restroom. He planned to place another call to his late wife. The look on the man's face made it clear someone had responded on the other side of the line, and he had survived the deadly game despite the gun holding real ammunition. His luck was extraordinary. After watching the man walk out the door, the priest stood frozen in shock. Though it was the dead of night, the street outside briefly appeared as bright as daytime. He rushed outside to check, only to find the endless snow-covered night stretching before him once more. The priest returned to the bar, resolved to dial his daughter's number and find out what had led to her passing all those years ago. A string of code popped up on the phone screen, and the analysis revealed his daughter had fallen from a tall building and lost her life. The priest could not bring himself to accept this outcome, never imagining she would choose to end her own life. Whether he believed it or not, he had to pay the toll once the call ended. The priest tried to skip his debt and headed straight for the exit, but upon opening the door, he saw nothing but more of the bar's interior stretching out before him. Anyone who refused to play the roulette game would never escape its walls. Seeing the unwavering certainty in the bartender's eyes, the priest realized the rules could not be broken, leaving him no choice but to take part in the game. Fortune favored the priest, and he avoided the fatal shot. Yet his fate was tragic all the same. Not only was it his daughter's death anniversary, it was also the day the person responsible for her death had been released from prison. During their confrontation, the priest had accidentally struck the man with an electric baton. The culprit's body still lay in the trunk of his car. The priest wished to make one more call to offer his apologies. Due to his earlier attempt to evade payment, he was required to cover the cost up front for this second call, which meant 2 bullets would be loaded into the gun. Before he could even complete the dial, the shot rang out, and he collapsed to the ground. The bartender carved a mark into the wall to record another guest who had lost their life within the bar, then prepared to dispose of the body with his assistant's help. Unbeknownst to the bartender, the assistant slipped a coaster into the priest's pocket. The next day, police recovered the priest's body, and the strange coaster was discovered alongside him. Detective Jeff's mind flooded with old memories the instant he laid eyes on the coaster. Years prior, His son, now the bartender's assistant Vega, had run into this very bar, which vanished without a trace moments afterward. At long last, he held a lead on his missing child. Back inside the bar, calm returned once more as a stranger stepped through the door. He had heard rumors the establishment allowed conversations with the departed and came to test the legend for himself. As a lawyer, professional instinct made him ask if formal contracts needed to be signed. Yet the bar operated without complicated paperwork. All agreements rested on verbal promises that must be honored completely. Those who broke their word would be trapped within its walls forever. Just like the young assistant, the bartender reminded him each call only lasted 60 seconds. The lawyer chose to dial his late mother. Yet the line went dead after he spoke just one sentence. She clearly had no desire to speak with him. This was the first time the bartender had witnessed such a rejection. The lawyer admitted he had acted in ways that upset his mother. He had spoken against her wishes, even though he had once loved her deeply. Still, she had never offered him a single ounce of maternal affection. The world praised her as elegant, refined, and well-mannered, yet she treated her own family poorly, pouring all her warmth and favor onto her students while showing no care for her biological son. After achieving great professional success, the lawyer bought her an apartment as a gift, which she rejected outright.
У вас дети есть? Это ваш?
Нет, мой был бы посимпатичнее меня.
Мой папа умер.
У меня тоже.
The call's toll still needed to be settled. This rule could never be altered. The revolver did not fire during his first game of roulette, granting the lawyer a second chance at life. He turned it down voluntarily, insisting on making more calls until his luck ran out entirely. He dialed his mother's number once again, and the two argued fiercely. She called him an ungrateful ingrate, recounting how she had struggled single-handedly to raise him. The lawyer countered that she had pushed him relentlessly to study hard and become a lawyer purely to feed her own vanity, unfit to be called a mother at all.
Что я тебе сделал?
Неблагодарный. Время.
Вау, 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 хорош, я понимаю, непростая женщина, телефон тут при чем?
The lawyer found himself relieved that a deadly flu epidemic had taken his mother's life years earlier. At the mention of influenza, the bartender recalled a former patron, a grandson who had intentionally exposed his grandmother to the virus to seize her property. Miraculously, the elderly woman survived the illness and outlived her grandson, returning to the bar 3 separate times to speak with him, and walking away unharmed after each roulette round. The lawyer then revealed the truth. He had been the one to expose his mother to the flu all those years ago. When the outbreak hit, she came to rely on him for shelter. He deliberately skipped wearing masks and refused vaccines, ensuring she contracted the virus. Once she fell gravely ill, he ignored medical advice and signed paperwork refusing further treatment, leading to her passing. The call ended, and it was time once again to pay the price. The lawyer tried to wriggle out of his obligation, claiming the first call had cut off instantly and should not count, and that the previous roulette game had already covered the cost of the second conversation. Just then, a new guest walked into the bar. The lawyer attempted to stir the stranger up, accusing the bar of forcing customers into unwanted services and charging for incomplete calls. Frightened, the new visitor turned to leave, with the lawyer following close behind. The second the lawyer's fingertips touched the doorknob, they were seared by intense heat. In contrast, the guest who had not made any calls stepped outside with no trouble at all. Anyone who failed to settle the cost of their call could never leave. The bartender warned him about a young man who had tried to force his escape years before. The instant half his body crossed the threshold, he was split clean in two. The lawyer had two choices: complete the roulette game, or attempt to flee and face the same brutal fate. He claimed a tooth was hidden inside the glass rack, and while the bartender checked for it, he secretly removed one bullet from the revolver. 2 bullets were supposed to be loaded for this round, yet even with one removed, the 1 in 6 chance of a fatal shot landed squarely on him. Afterward, the young assistant Vega asked the bartender if escape was impossible without playing Russian roulette. The bartender revealed there existed another method, yet refused to elaborate, only warning Vega that he would live to regret it deeply if he ever chose to use it. Vega understood clearly that there was no way out for him. Still, living within the bar held small moments of comfort. Every day, he checked the wall's death tally, and as long as his mother's name did not appear, he knew she was still alive. Vega was not the only one consumed by guilt. Elsewhere, Detective Jeff knelt beside his comatose wife, overcome with remorse. The only thing he could do for her was locate their son Vega. Following the lead of the coaster, Jeff tracked down a delivery truck, yet before he could investigate further, he was tackled to the ground. Jeff was far from defenseless, though, while the men's attention drifted, he hid a tracking device beneath the vehicle. After evading the 2 workers mid-journey, he drove after the truck. When the vehicle pulled into a yard, Jeff followed the tracker to the spot. The delivery worker appeared to be hauling crates of liquor toward a door, yet from Jeff's perspective, there was nothing there but a boarded-up entrance. No matter how loudly he shouted, there was no response. The delivery man's own time to pay the bar's toll had arrived. A phone inside the bar suddenly rang, and Jeff outside caught the faint tone. By the time he rushed toward the sound, the delivery worker lay lifeless on the ground. Jeff picked up the phone. The voice on the other end said nothing, yet it was clear the caller was connected to the mysterious bar. Using police department resources, Jeff traced the phone number to a residential address. While Jeff hunted for his son Vega, another new guest arrived at the bar, a young social media influencer who had received the same mysterious text message inviting him to visit. He streamed live as he walked inside, narrating the venue to his online followers. Vega recognized the young man instantly as a famous internet celebrity. Giddy at the chance to meet him, the bartender immediately told the influencer filming was forbidden inside. Yet the young man argued the bar was public property. Only when the bartender set the revolver on the counter did he shut down his livestream. The bartender cut straight to the point. Receiving the text meant the influencer had recently lost a loved one. 160-second call, followed by a round of Russian roulette. The influencer showed no fear, adjusting his phone's lighting and handing it to Vega, eager to capture the experience for his online audience.
Обязательно ставьте лайки, пишите в комментариях, кого из блогеров.
The game concluded before he even got the chance to make his call. Meanwhile, Jeff followed the traced address to a luxury villa on the outskirts of town. A bald man relaxed leisurely in the swimming pool, unaware Jeff had approached. Jeff fired a single shot into the air to capture his attention, hoping to question him about the bar. The bald man initially tried to brush the detective off, yet he underestimated Jeff's persistence and reluctantly recounted his encounter with the mysterious venue. A few days prior, he had stumbled into the bar while heavily intoxicated, and the bartender had poured more drinks for him. Before he could speak, the bartender offered condolences, sobering him halfway. He listened in confusion as the bartender explained guests could speak with the deceased over the phone, a claim he refused to believe until the line connected. He dialed his late older brother, hoping to ask where he had hidden all their money, yet the pair grew so caught up in conversation they never reached the subject. The bartender eventually reminded him his brother had mentioned Bitcoin moments earlier. Then came the cost of the call. The bald man grabbed the revolver and pulled the trigger, surviving by pure luck. He wanted to make another call to confirm the location of the funds, yet the rules dictated 2 bullets would be loaded for the second round. When the bald man regained consciousness on the villa's sofa, he had become the bar's most frequent caller, having dialed his brother 5 separate times. He finally learned the passcode to his brother's crypto wallet, yet he had not yet settled the toll for the 5th call. Staring at the wallet code scrawled across his arms, he sank into despair. He had found the money, yet he feared he would not live long enough to spend it. Sober now, he lost all the boldness he'd had while drunk. He attempted to bolt for the exit, only to find the door locked shut. When the bartender held out the revolver, the bald man pointed it at the bartender instead. The gun was only intended for the roulette game, though, and could not harm another person. The bartender waited days for the bald man to take his turn with the gun, until the man spotted the tally board and hatched a scheme. The bar needed more customers, meaning it required advertising. This idea instantly caught the bartender's interest. The bald man worked in telecom fraud. He could obtain lists from funeral homes and morgues to send mass text invitations, acting as marketing for the bar. At his pleading, the bar's phone rang, and the bartender accepted the absurd proposal. The exit door unlocked automatically, allowing the bald man to leave. With the address the bald man had provided, Jeff locked him in custody. As Jeff drove out to find the bar, the bald man managed to grab a gun and shoot off his restraints to escape. Jeff arrived at the location he'd been given, only to discover the bald man had lied. It was nothing more than an ordinary neighborhood bar. His fellow officers arrived shortly after and took him into custody. His superiors urged Jeff to accept reality. His son Vega had been missing for a full year, and statistical data suggested the odds of the boy still being alive were slim. Still, living people had to carry on, especially with his wife bedridden and unresponsive. Jeff refused to give up. He knew he had seen the real mysterious bar, and he clung to the belief that Vega was still alive. Back at the bar, another unusual guest arrived, a man who wished to call a writer who had passed away. The author's work had gone unnoticed during their lifetime but exploded in popularity after their passing, and the man wanted to share this joyful news with them. The line connected quickly, and the writer expressed gratitude for the update. Having made the call, the man had to abide by the rules. He pressed the gun to his temple and pulled the trigger. No shot fired. He placed a second call to an ancestor who had perished in World War II, eager to tell them Russia had claimed victory in the conflict and bring them joy. His third call went to Admiral Kolchak of the Russian Imperial Navy, who was said to have sunk a ship loaded with gold and jewels to the bottom of the sea. He asked where the vessel rested, receiving the answer that it lay beneath Lake Baikal. The fourth call was to his late wife, who had been gone for many years. He had never recovered from the grief of losing her, and all his earlier composure faded away as he recalled every precious memory they shared, tears rolling down his cheeks. He admitted he had struggled for years, unable to imagine a life without her. Before he could finish speaking, the 60 seconds elapsed. The bartender took a photograph of him as a memento. The instant Vega bent down to pick up the printed photo, a gunshot rang out. The man's wife had ended her own suffering by taking medication years prior, hoping he would go on to live a fulfilling life, and yet he had failed to honor her final wish. Elsewhere, Jeff administered a sedative to his unconscious wife. Inside the bar, Vega scanned the death record wall and spotted his mother's name scrawled there. This meant even if he escaped the bar, he would never see her again. Vega grabbed the revolver, resolved to settle his long-standing debt to the venue that day. Meanwhile, his father Jeff raced toward the bar in tears. The bald man had told him the mysterious location only appeared to those who had recently lost family members. Just as Vega raised the gun to his head, Jeff pushed open the bar's door. He had promised his wife he would look after their son, and he offered a deal to the bartender. As a police detective, he could shield the bar from all external trouble, even handling the disposal of bodies for them, much like the bald man had begged to do earlier. No phone call arrived to accept his offer. Seeing no other way, Jeff tried to attack the bartender, yet every blow left no mark, and shattered furniture instantly repaired itself. There was no way for the boy to leave unless one round of Russian roulette was completed. Desperate to rescue his child, Jeff placed the gun to his own temple and pulled the trigger. Luck stayed on his side, and no shot fired. Having cleared his toll, Jeff moved to take his son away, yet the bartender stopped him, explaining the debt could not be covered by a third party without the boy's consent. Vega's own choices had indirectly led to his mother's passing. He could not bear to watch his father risk the same fate. He took the revolver from Jeff's hands, accepting that debts owed to the bar could only be repaid by the person who incurred them. Vega survived his turn with the gun, since Jeff had pulled the trigger once without a fatal outcome. The bartender noted the bar owed him 1 free minute to speak with a departed loved one, asking if he wanted to make a call. Jeff shook his head without hesitation. He intended to spend every remaining day of his life by his son's side, a promise he had made to his wife. Father and son walked out of the bar together. When they turned to glance back, the entire venue had vanished without a trace. The young assistant's story reached its end, yet the bartender's own journey within the bar was far from over. Only one more recorded death on his tally board would grant him freedom to leave. Another guest stepped through the door.
Вы привидение увидели, что ли? У вас инсульт?
Мы закрыты.
And for the first time, the bartender voiced that he was closing for the night. His wall only needed one more mark to set him free, so why was he turning this young woman away? The truth was that the bartender himself was merely a worker trapped within the bar's bounds. The girl's appearance dragged his mind back to a night 20 years prior. He had been upstairs holding his infant daughter when 2 armed robbers broke into his home. Fearing for the child's safety, he hid with her while the intruders ransacked the house. When he planned to sneak out and call the police, gunfire echoed through the rooms. He recognized the young woman standing before him at once. She was his daughter, bearing an identical resemblance to her late mother. The bartender explained the bar's deadly game rules to her, yet she paid little mind. She had grown up in an orphanage, and she only wanted to dial her parents to ask why they had abandoned her there. The girl did not know her parents' names, giving the bartender an excuse to refuse her request. He underestimated how fiercely she longed to find her biological family. Though, through Jeff, she obtained records of an elderly deceased woman whose DNA shared a strong match with hers. This elderly lady was highly likely her blood relative. She was willing to stake her life for the chance to speak with her. The bartender harshly denied her once more. The 2 robbers had targeted his home years ago because he had stolen funds from their criminal gang. His greed and reckless gamble had cost his wife her life, leaving him consumed with despair and shame, too ashamed to raise their daughter himself. That was why he had sent her to the orphanage. Like Vega, he had wandered into the bar afterward. When he spoke to his wife on the phone, she did not blame him, only urging him to care for their daughter well. The rules dictated if he pulled the trigger on himself, he might never see the girl again. This was the agreement marked on his tally board. Once he accumulated enough recorded deaths, he could leave the bar and reunite with his daughter. The reunion felt so close, yet impossibly far away. When he pushed open the restroom door, he found the girl had dialed the number on her own. The elderly woman on the line was indeed her maternal grandmother, who had spent years searching for her granddaughter without success. From the grandmother's words, the girl learned her birth parents had been killed by the robbers all those years ago. She finally asked for her mother's full name, which appeared on the phone's display screen. The bartender refused to read the name aloud, as doing so would break the bar's unchanging rules. Still, he knew the name and birth date by heart, having replayed the memory for 2 decades. The call ended, and the time came to settle the toll, his fingers trembling as he passed it to his daughter. No shot fired, and he breathed a deep sigh of relief, tears spilling down his face. The pair talked at length, connecting easily. The girl had built a stable, successful life for herself after leaving the orphanage. Though her personality mirrored her mother's perfectly, she had learned small bits about her mother from her grandmother, yet she craved to know more about her father. The bartender could not stop her from placing another call. He no longer needed to read the display screen to translate the conversation for her, telling her both her parents had loved her deeply and missed her terribly, and that she looked exactly like her mother. The second call ended, and the girl was ready to pay its price. 2 bullets should have been loaded into the gun for this round, yet the bartender handed her an unloaded revolver, fully confident Luck would protect his daughter. He even asked for her contact information, forgetting the bar's iron rules.
А чё у вас дверь закрыта?
Нет.
Those who cheat the system or fail to settle their call's toll can never leave the bar. Panic washed over the bartender as the entrance swung open. The one who created the bar's rules could not allow them to be broken easily.
Можно звонок за счет заведения?
Правило есть правило. Если, конечно, девушка не против.
Послушай, давай ты звонок за счет бара. Согласна?
Как-то подозрительно.
Не, все в порядке, никаких проблем. Ты согласись и иди.
Confused yet grateful for his kindness. Before she left, the bartender slipped a photograph of himself into her pocket. He watched her walk away until she vanished from sight. He had hidden away for 20 years, clinging to the hope of reuniting with his daughter. Yet he could not escape the bar's mandatory game rules. A faint smile tugged at his lips as the moment passed, and that marks the end of today's film. This is Chan Jian Movie, and we'll see you in the next recap.